Since 2011, the large and impressive Skechers distribution center has existed in eastern Moreno Valley. It's part of an area called the Highland Fairview Corporate Park. However, the intriguing part of this name is that many fail to realize the limited role Highland Fairview actually had in the production of this building. None, in fact, except ownership of the land. Highland Fairview claims to be the sole developer of the structure. In 2009, construction of this building was approved. Skechers and Highland Fairview both promised 1,000 permanent jobs at the first phase and even more locally hired through construction. With the later phases, Highland Fairview Corporate Park would increase that number to 2,500 permanent jobs and even more in construction. Did not build nor in any aspect design the Skechers structure. They are actually the co-owner of the site with Skechers, half and half. The footwear manufacturer is really the one who flipped the bill in construction.
A $200 million project which required Skechers to become co-owner of the building, not just the tenant.
When construction loans became such a very difficult thing to obtain, we had to partner in order for that to happen.
Going back in time, Highland Fairview was formed in the late 1980s by the South African billionaires Jules and Eddie Trump, and also Israeli-born businessman Ido Ben-Zivi, who is more locally known in Moreno Valley. It has only been active in Moreno Valley since 2004. Ben-Zivi, however, through another company called Ben-Zivi Cohen, has owned the same acreage Highland Fairview does now, east of Redlands Boulevard. Highland Fairview and the other companies have had many proposals in Moreno Valley for development, promising thousands of jobs and millions in revenue. None of them have been delivered on. Even the Skechers building, which is being examined now, has many falsehoods about it that need to be dispelled. The Trump brothers as successful developers are connected quite well around the world. Ben-Zivi himself, however, the land here in Moreno Valley, as well as a few small failed developments in Tulare County, one of which is currently in 2019 being criminally investigated. But back to the Skechers distribution center. Skechers USA first had its logistics operation through 5 different buildings near Ontario International Airport. In about 2006, to increase the efficiency of their operation and reduce costs, they commissioned, before knowing Highland Fairview in any capacity, a new design for an automated and energy-efficient distribution center that could roll 5 buildings into one. They commissioned the architectural firm HPA Architecture, with offices in Irvine and San Francisco. As the building was being completed and blueprints were drafted, Skechers sought several different locations in the Inland Empire to put its building. One of them was San Bernardino International Airport. They also considered 3 different locations in Moreno Valley, 2 along Interstate 215. Highland Fairview only became involved later on. HGA Group designed the industrial part of the warehouse. For the office space that Skechers employees would later use, Architecture and Design, also based in Irvine, and the store, an architectural firm called DF, was known already for completing their corporate headquarters in Mountain View, was commissioned to complete this aspect. 2 different architectural firms worked together to complete plans for the sophisticated building. And Fairview actually claims it was designed in Moreno Valley by them.
I want people to know some of the things that you may not know. The building that we all refer to as a Skechers building, Skechers is obviously in that building, was designed in Moreno Valley. People don't understand that we have an office in Moreno Valley. I spent quite a few days in this office in Moreno Valley. I don't want to mislead anybody. We have places, other places in the country, in the world, but it's still, I call Moreno Valley my home. And the office we have here actually designed the Skechers building. So whether you like it or you don't like it, it was created and designed in Moreno Valley. And we can be...
But given the fact that these architectural firms were separately commissioned by Skechers itself, indicates they had absolutely... Another aspect of the design they were not involved in is the impressive and massive automated sorting system that is used inside of the building. Highland Fairview has claimed that it had a role in this. However, it was really designed by a company from Southeast Asia called Daifuku. Even the landscaping outside of the building, noted for its drought-tolerant ability, was created by Mission Landscape companies based in Ontario. None of this was anything commissioned or done by Highland Fairview. One might think if it wasn't part of the designs, was it part of the construction? Initially, yes. Highland Fairview commissioned a general contractor based in Riverside to construct the building. Several months into construction, it abandoned the project due to financial issues, and the entire new construction of the building was under risk of foreclosure.
When construction loans became such a very difficult thing to obtain, we had to partner in order for that to happen.
To counteract this, Highland Fairview formed a joint venture corporation with Skechers called Highland Fairview Logistics, which would give them the ability to co-own the land and co-manage any structures that were built upon it. Once Skechers was added on to the financing, construction loans soon became available from Bank of America and other lenders that Highland Fairview alone could not get. They then hired 3 general contractors from outside of the Inland Empire to complete the work, breaking the promises of hiring thousands of jobs in local labor.
When we mean about giving all the opportunities in Moreno Valley, it's not just jobs at Skechers, but even jobs in our own company in Moreno Valley and at our own construction workers. Like the Skechers had over 1,100 construction workers we employed in town. In fact, many people I meet, they say to me that if it wasn't for the job at Skechers, building it, not working at Skechers, they may have lost their home. If you remember, we built it during 2009-10, the height of the recession. There was over 5,000 foreclosures in Moreno Valley. People were losing their job. Unemployment was high. And we said, in fact, that is the time to invest in a community. Not when everything is good. When people think things are falling apart. Banks were going bankrupt. General Motors went bankrupt. A lot of companies closed. And we said, you know what? This is the time to really show up the community. And that's what we did. A lot of people had jobs there.
Eventually, the building was completed in 2011, and press reports later indicated that the 1,000 permanent jobs promised during construction and that Moreno Valley leaders had justified the approval of this building and it had not occurred and would not. In fact, 400 of the positions were to be eliminated entirely through a net job loss due to automation and downsizing from Skechers, let alone the unfulfilled thousands of construction jobs that did not come from the Inland Empire or Moreno Valley.
And I was particularly delighted to hear from them a couple of weeks ago that there's over 400 Moreno Valley residents, people from Moreno Valley actually working at the facility. So they've actually provided lots of jobs for people in Moreno Valley, which is something we've worked on very, very hard for a long time to bring.
But even today, Highland Fairview continues to make false claims. An expansion of the Skechers building occurred 10 years later and was approved in April 2019 by a very heavily financially supported City Council majority in Moreno Valley. Further false claims continue to pour in, even after the failures of the first building to fulfill many of its commitments and claims.
It's been almost 8-9 years. Property tax alone is about $1.6-1.7 million a year. It's close to $10 million of taxes that have already been contributed for the building.
A further fact that Highland Fairview has exaggerated about the Skechers distribution center is that it added $1.6 to $1.7 million in property tax revenue every year in the 7 to 8 years that it has existed between 2011 and 2018. This figure is actually exaggerated and false. Records from Riverside County reveal that only about half of the amount given is actually about how much in terms of property tax revenue that the Skechers building has put out. There's no figure published for that of sales tax or other revenue, but most likely it's probably also exaggerated by Highland Fairview as well. It was not honest or upfront about just to get a lease or construction approved on its property. Now in the present, despite all the clear fact that Highland Fairview had no role in its own Skechers building and was very dishonest and non-transparent about how the first phase of the building kept going, that hasn't changed the views of many Moreno Valley leaders, especially those that have benefited from the $3.5 million that Highland Fairview has spent through direct and indirect campaign donations to local city council, school board since 2008. Moreno Valley still has leaders that will give awards to Highland Fairview for a building it did not design, tout the World Logistics Center, and the 20,000 jobs that Highland Fairview has promised it'll build, despite the fact the company does not have a track record of building anything, especially the Skechers Distribution Center, which it could not even fill a tenth of those positions promised with its other proposals, and do not hold to account or question any of the motives or actions in the past of Highland Fairview. Are they really looking out for the best interests of the residents in Moreno Valley and the economy, or are they looking out and doing whatever a large campaign donor asks of them, and ignoring those who actually live and work in the community? Moreno Valley residents deserve more. They deserve a government that will take with a grain of salt this company's promises and proposals in the future, and not let a business like this that is unethical take advantage of their needs and resources, as Highland Fairview has done.
Back 10 years ago, I thought they invented fake news in Moreno Valley. Turns out they learned from it, and now it spread. But